Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the roundtable discussion entitled Digitalized Teaching and Learning, a New Demand. The pandemic of COVID-19 has quickened the transformation of teaching and learning from face-to-face learning to digitalized teaching and learning. Digitalized teaching and learning seems to be a new demand for all education stakeholders. Therefore, we have three panelists here today to explore more about digitalized teaching and learning. They are Miss Egg, a teacher from SJKC Yoknam, Mr. Brian, an officer from Bahagian Pembangunan Curriculum, BPK. Lastly, Mr. Phanuel, an online expert. I'm Miss Chai, your moderator for this online roundtable discussion. First, speaking of equity, can we have Mr. Brian to explain to us what is equity in digitalized teaching and learning?
Okay, thank you, moderator. So, before I move on to digitalized teaching and learning, let us look at the Malaysian Education Blueprint, MEB, first. So, as stated in the System Aspiration of Access in MEB 2013 to 2025, each and every student should have equal access to education. Therefore, the students still have rights in education, although the schools has been closed down due to the pandemic. So aligned to this belief, the Education Ministry has carried out a realignment of curriculum for all the subjects except for Form 5 to ensure quality learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. The realignment of curriculum involved changes in the content, pedagogy, and assessment based on the desired learning outcomes. So, as a member of BPK, Bahagian Pembangunan Curriculum, we are truly focused to help the teachers to overcome the new demands. Therefore, we introduced the manual PDPR as a guideline for the teachers in implementing home-based learning. The home-based learning, teaching and learning, PDPR, is an alternative approach to classroom teaching in this new normal. So according to Dr. Ma, 2020, the manual PDPR serves as a guideline for the teachers in the implementation of a structured and well-planned PDP so that students can continue learning in an optimum manner. So as I mentioned earlier, teaching and learning can be continued between the accessibility and reachability of the teachers as well as the students. Every school's condition is unique. Okay, every schools, they face different challenges. Therefore, the ministry cannot set a defined SOP of PDPR for the schools nationwide. However, teachers must adapt to the current situation of the students to find a way that is most suitable to conduct teaching and learning optimally. As stated in the manual PDPR, home-based learning can be done through online, offline, or off-site method. Teachers are allowed to use any of these methods or a combination of methods based on the needs and suitabilities.
Sorry for interruption, Mr. Brian. I do agree with you, but my concern is, how about the students? They students with connectivity issues. So how can the teachers ensure equity for all the students?
All right, thank you for the question just now, Miss Ik. Yeah. Okay, talking about equity, one of the principles mentioned in the manual PDPR is no students should be left behind. As mentioned earlier, in the case where pupils have internet access issues, teachers must consider other appropriate teaching methods, such as offline or offsite, to ensure that no students will be left out. For instance, to address the issue of certain students having internet access, only at a certain time of the day. So the teachers, can consider recording the lesson so that the lesson can be downloaded and watched anytime by the students. Otherwise, if the students have no internet access at all, the teachers will need to think of other alternatives such as giving physical homework, and students will be required to collect and hand in the homework at the school. The key here is to have an adaptive mindset so that home-based learning can go on. Now, I understand that this might burden the teachers, all right, but the ministry strive to help the teachers to face this new demand to ensure that all students will have equal access to learning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brian. Now, Miss Egg, can you share with us how do you ensure equity in the online learning environment?
Okay, so as for me, I believe that teachers they can ensure equity in the online learning environment through providing the accessibility for students with physical impairments that may create challenges for example reading, seeing, hearing the digital files and content, and students with psychological or learning differences that require accommodation such as extra time to process materials. So for students with physical impairments, maybe a teacher should ensure all the files, the images, the videos, and other posted content are accessible. For example, visual content it can be clearly translated by a screen reader, and audio content has visual captions. As for those students with psychological or learning differences that require extra time to process materials, perhaps asynchronous learning can be offered by teachers to them. So, according to Kim, Sisman, and other researchers, asynchronous learning enables deep processing because it allows more time for practice and feedback and more time to read, process, and respond to other social contribution. So teacher can consider the accessibility of all these students in online learning. So there is an equal learning environment for them. And apart from that, in the online learning environment, there is a tool which I think is quite useful in ensuring equity among the students, which is anonymity.
So, thank you, Miss Egg. Thank you, Miss Egg, for your sharing. Okay, on the issue of equity. Sorry for interrupting, but I do agree that students have a certain measure of anonymity in online learning. But how is it related to equity in online learning? Can you please elaborate a little bit more?
Okay, you see, in online learning, students they have certain measure of anonymity. So they can apply this anonymity in online learning activities, which Bradley and Law Mika they know they say that anonymity in online learning as a shield from being on stage for the pupils. So this is to foster a level of comfort in language learning. So this enables the students to suffer less from the social constraints generated from their social norms, particularly for students with diverse backgrounds and education experience. And then it is widely believed that using anonymity can induce students higher participation and production in interaction and lower their anxiety in the process. And furthermore, anonymity protects interaction between the participants by reducing the impacts of their social identities, including social status, their academic achievement, and their language proficiency. Yeah, this is according to Chester and Winnie. Using anonymity in interaction can help the students to keep a low key in the group and avoid becoming the targets of others that may limit their learning engagement. So during the MCO, I had conducted an online learning activity, which I posted a question on Google Docs, and students they gave their opinions about the questions, with their identities remain anonymous. So from that activity, I found out that students who used to be inactive in face-to-face classroom discussion due to their low language levels, they tend to be more active in their online activities. They can come up with better opinions than other students. Okay, I did not know that at first the ideas come from them because they were anonymous in that activity. So I really got a shock when I discovered the ideas came from that particular students, that particular group of students who were low language levels. So when teachers they are able to provide a platform for students to participate in discussion, which students can have anonymity, they will not have too many considerations which can affect their participation and expression of ideas. So this can promote students achieving engagement in interactive activities in an equal environment. Yeah.
Right. Um, I would like to add on to Miss Egg just now. I would like to add on that, you see, I agree that the one benefit of anonymity is that it allows democracy in learning. However, I think that anonymity means more freedom given to the students to share without revealing their identities. Uh, so the consequence is the students might misuse the freedom given, okay, to discuss or share contents unrelated to the task. Therefore, I think that teachers have to be extra vigilant of the pupils' activities and interactions in these online platforms.
Thank you very much, Miss Egg and Miss Brian, for your sharing. Next, Mr. Phanuel, what are your views about equity in digitalized teaching and learning as an online learning expert?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brian and Miss A, for the sharing above. It was really great to hear these issues from the perspective of a teacher and also from the perspective of the BPK, someone who works in the curriculum. Thank you very much, for all your efforts in contributing to learning. However, as an online learning specialist, speaking of equity, I believe that every student has the right to quality personalized feedback in knowing their progress in learning and to address the necessary gaps in their learning. With digitalized teaching and learning, there is a new demand for a new way of feedback, especially structured, personalized feedback for young learners in digitalized teaching and learning. Even when working with young adults and teens in online learning for so many years, quality personalized feedback greatly helps each individual as their academic and emotional support in learning. Therefore, especially now with young learners, structured personalized feedback could not be neglected. With online teaching, there is always a lack of personalized feedback for each and every pupil in the digitalized teaching and learning. Giving and receiving quality personalized feedback online is very challenging for many teachers to address the needs of every learner. They can address the class as a whole, but it becomes extra difficult when it comes to each student, especially with digitalized teaching and learning. Quality feedback is vital in improving pupils' learning, efficiency, and maintaining a motivated online presence. This is by Cripps in 2020. It helps develop teacher-learner relationships and strengthens pupils' academic performance. This is by Liubot and Swatch in 2015, making it an indispensable process for virtual education. Without any personalized feedback, transfer of previous meaningful interactions to the next lesson becomes very challenging for both teachers and pupils when learning gaps and issues are left unattended from previous lessons. This is actually been reported by the Sun Daily in 2021. Therefore, learners must be motivated to foster online learning engagement through learning from mistakes in weaker areas and to gain satisfaction in their achievements and maintain self-discipline with sharing in return. Yes.
Okay, I agree with this. As
Mm.
a teacher, it is important to let the pupils know how they did in class. I always make sure that feedback is given, although due to the limited resources, I might not be able to address all like I did in face-to-face learning. I use other online resources to give them virtual rewards.
Oh yes, I'm actually very glad that you did it with your pupils. Virtual rewards is a trend now, especially with a lot of websites offering, synchronous monitoring. Therefore, with realigned curriculum, we can introduce curriculum factors that encourage pupils to own their learning, to ensure that learning draws on the learner's experience and focuses on the needs of learners to maximize pupils' engagement and motivation remotely. However, one of the elements that is absent in the PDPR manual is the emphasis of giving structured and personalized feedback for the pupils, each and every pupil. Without structured, personalized feedback and reinforcement from the pupils, from the teachers, pupils are left unattended in their learning, unmotivated, and less attentive in class, which is actually reported by Rajendram in 2020, which shows decreased participation and ownership in their learning.
Yep. But sorry to interrupt, Mr. Phanuel, but the
Yeah, sure.
PDPR manual does does encourage the use of offsite learning approaches. This involves project-based learning strategies that pupils can work asynchronously in their own time and pace. Also, teachers could also give personalized feedback to the pupils to ensure that they understand their gaps and progresses in their learning. This also helps the pupils in getting the motivation needed for their digitalized teaching and learning.
Yes, very good. Definitely, with the realigned curriculum, there's now a new demand in the off-site approach in learning, especially with a lot of project-based strategies. While the PDPR manual do encourages off-site learning, which involves project-based learning, personalized feedback from teachers after each assessment remains as crucial for the pupils' learning. Therefore, with all talk, one of the ways teachers could encourage more personalized feedback in their lessons is to harness data collected from their pupils. All this data can be collected through online homework, tasks, assessments, and even online quizzes that you conduct online. Teachers could track and trace each pupil's progress. This is actually made easier with the use of online resources that we can screenshot all their results and can keep them as to keep track. After that, teachers can provide personalized feedback using platforms like Google Classroom by giving specific and very structured individualized comments after each submission. Teachers could also harness current offsite strategies like I've mentioned and Mr. Bryan's mentioned about project-based learning while maintaining partnership and contact with the parents of each pupils to ensure that pupils receive progress updates and could address the gaps that the pupils are currently feeling. Therefore, pupils can feel more connected and more than before as they know that the teachers are constantly monitoring their activities, monitoring their work, especially when it comes to younger learners. This is similar to Zainuddin's situation as he observed that many pupils desired the similar reinforcement and reassurance from teachers in face-to-face sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell, for the insight given. Moving on to the technological innovation in digitalized teaching and learning. Back to you, Mr. Bryan. What are your views on technological innovations that teachers can adapt?
All right, thank you, Miss Moderator. So first of all, speaking about technological innovation, all right. Okay, online learning is an unprecedented, unprecedented, sorry, unprecedented norm in Malaysian education due to the pandemic, and in which teachers are not trained for that. Teachers, as agents of change, have to adapt their original approaches of teaching to suit the new norm. So, according to Dr. Rose Mazila, okay, a paradigm shift is crucial to make e-learning a meaningful experience. The success of online learning depended on the creativeness of the teachers to make use of the resources available on hand to create interesting teaching materials. As mentioned in the manual PDPR, teachers can flexibly adapt a variety of materials to produce effective teaching materials such as gamification, video, audio clip, or e-books. Besides that, formative assessment should go on along with online learning to keep track of the students' progress and to measure whether the students achieve the desired learning outcomes. For example, teachers can create online quizzes to test the students' understanding on the topics that have been taught. In conclusion, teachers can do some technological innovations in online learning to enhance the learning experience of their students.
Um, okay, I agree with you, Mr. Brian, to interrupt. But maybe can you share about the initiatives that the ministry has taken to promote technological innovation of the teachers?
Thank you for the question. So, online learning actually is a new demand for every teacher. The preparation of online teaching materials may have increased the burden of the teachers. Therefore, the ministry has set up the Delima platform, Cikgu Tube, EduWeb TV, and the latest one, Didik TV, to ease the burden of creation of online teaching materials. For example, the Delima platform offers a lot of teaching materials and modules through strategic partnerships with MDEC, DG, UNICEF, ASTRO, as well as the National Library. So, teachers can utilize these resources given to adapt or adopt suitable materials for their students. Also, the Delima platform has a page called Ruang Ilmu, okay, which allows teachers to share educational contents. This is to encourage teachers to share learning resources and to enable teachers to support one another. These are the initiatives taken by the ministry to promote technological innovation among the teachers.
Thank you for your sharing, Mr. Brian. Miss Egg, as an implementer of online learning, what are the challenges that you faced in incorporating technological innovation?
Yeah, actually, to incorporate technological innovation is not easy. So it's a task which requires great commitment, requires the ability to manage multiple resistances, and it frequently translates into slow rate of change. For example, for what are used by to learn. Although in some countries where facilities for online learning is made available, however, the majority of students they continue to experience their traditional role as consumers of information rather than problem resolvers or producers of information and innovators. So this happened to me as well. Innovating learning processes through technology involves the thorough renewal of the way we use and produce information and knowledge. So this vision is opposed to the use of technologies to replace traditional teaching practices. I believe that the potential for innovation generated by technology requires organizational, institutional, and pedagogical changes.
So, Ms. Egg, do you refer to any related guideline that helps you in incorporating technological innovation in online teaching?
Yes, sure. On a strictly pedagogical level, I, as a teacher, believe that a good starting point for teachers to incorporate technological innovation is the how people learn approach by Donovan and Bransford, recently referred to in the project Digital Learning Classroom. So this approach puts forward 5 general principles, which I think most teachers they can consider they want to incorporate technological innovation in learning. So the 5 principles are: first, learners learn better when knowledge merges with or develop from what they already know. The second principle is that learners they learn better when they work with others in learning. They ask questions and they reflect on what they have learned and how it was learned. Third, when the information offered and the context are tailored to their cognitive needs. So the fourth one is that learners they will learn better if what they learn is fundamental and in depth, and if the individual competences or the abilities are strongly anchored to a principle or general concept, and if what they have studied has multiple applications. So the last one is learners they learn better when they are given feedback. Yeah, they are given feedback and or they are given opportunity to evaluate their own learning. So these 5 principles offer a framework which is useful in designing learning solutions aimed at integrating technological innovation into teaching and learning.
Great sharing there. I'm also curious as to how an online learning expert who has been harnessing the power of the internet in learning, what are the challenges that we could anticipate in the face of digitalized teaching and learning, especially with COVID-19 and the learning situation for young learners?
Thank you very much for your sharing. It has been a very eye-opening, especially for me as an online learning expert. I've seen a lot of situations. As an online learning expert, we have been dealing a lot with young adults and teens as our primary learners. However, COVID-19 has brought upon a new wave of challenges when it comes to young learners. Therefore, speaking on the new demand, it is definitely presenting a new set of demand in online learning, especially with young learners. One of the challenges that I see in this online learning phenomenon is that there is a need for pupils, teachers, and parents as well to harness the use of technology in the right way. Especially with teachers and parents, there is a need to educate young learners to use technology in the right way through promoting technological awareness and educating young learners to put technology into good use. An article by Gallagher and Magid in 2020 have shown that technological use in the learning, if not being used in the right way, can create a distraction, thereby hindering learning of pupils instead of facilitating them in their learning. Without proper monitoring from parents, especially with long hours of online learning in the current COVID-19 situation, there is a high tendency for children to be lured into other websites, applications, games, or other temptations online instead of the actual learning purposes online.
I can say that I personally feel this issue as well. Online distraction is a problem that we need to address no matter whether we are having online teaching learning or face-to-face learning. But I do agree that when everything goes digital, there's a tendency for this problem to worsen.
Yes, this problem of technological misuse include divided attention, social media addiction, harmful use of websites, etc. in pupils, especially with digital devices. According to Richmond and Troyes, in 2018, many students have perceived the use of digital devices as an effective practice. Unfortunately, many overestimated their ability to multitask when using technology. Many websites and applications are now built with the purpose of advertising and commercialization of various products. Our attention, even with adults, can be distracted easily. The situation would be worse when it comes to young learners. With the use of technology, Many harmful websites and applications are just a click away, as they are made to be intuitive, fun, and interactive. Research has also shown that many lack the metacognitive awareness to avoid the distractions available when using digital devices. Therefore, there is a new demand not just for strategic methods of traditional learning, but also effective and disciplined ways of using technology. Yes, Miss A.
Okay, so as a teacher, I can say that I do see more and more children they are becoming addicted to online games now as they are given the freedom to use the devices. And I see a new demand for me as a teacher to take this issue of technological awareness and technological correctness more seriously with the children. So I have to remind parents to always monitor their children to do homework instead of being addicted to playing online games with their phones.
Yes, exactly. Gallagher and Maggie provided a few tips to this issue. Therefore, teachers can set boundaries on applications and learning content use. The content should be appropriate to the level of the pupils and is safe to be explored by younger learners. For example, in YouTube, we have the Safe for Kids option that we can select materials that is suitable for them instead of other adult content that is not suitable. Parents, on the other hand, should manage or monitor how your child uses the internet and mobile apps. Be sure to talk about uh, all the apps and application and websites in advance and explain the clear rules and purposes of using it. Maintain reasonable time limits for devices used at home, and it might help to have your children estimate how long it will take them to complete the homework they are going to do online before they actually get started. Setting up reasonable time expectations will prevent potential resistance when you tell your child it is time to put the device away. And this, in turn, can prevent them from using their devices for too long and to help them to set boundaries for themselves to be more disciplined.
Alright, so based on what has been discussed, do all of you agree that online learning is a new demand in the current situation? What can be summarized based on what we have shared today?
So for let me discuss it. So as a teacher, I personally agree that online learning is a new demand in the current situation. Not only current but even future. So although it might be quite challenging for some teachers to adapt to online learning at first, but I believe that they will surely able to master it just for the sake of their students. So as what we have discussed earlier, there is some equity and innovation in learning which can only be achieved through online learning.
To sum it all up, I think that an adaptive mindset will help the teachers to go a long way. Teachers, as agents of change, have to adapt themselves to teach in the current situation, as education cannot be discontinued. A paradigm shift in the beliefs about teaching and learning is crucial so that online lessons will not merely replicate face to face sessions. The most important thing for the teachers is to be flexible to changes as the demands of education is ever changing.
So, for me, digitalized teaching and learning definitely brought along many benefits. Students have an opportunity to learn from an almost infinite numbers of resources, delivery styles ranging from ebooks to articles to videos, podcasts, infographics, and immersive virtual reality experiences. However, it also demands that parents, teachers, and pupils are not fully prepared for it. Slowly and surely, teachers would harness the use of technology to find suitable methods of personalized feedback for each pupil to keep them motivated in learning. It is part of an equity that every child has a right to know their learning progress and to evaluate their own learning. Also, with data and partnership from parents, young learners could feel more connected to their learning and their teachers like how they experience in face-to-face learning in schools. Also, there is a new demand for teachers and parents to educate the children to use technology appropriately, to harness technology for good, to apply technology to benefit their learning, and not to cause damage to their mental and emotional well-being.
Many thanks to our three panelists, Miss Egg, Mr. Brian, and Mr. Phanuel for the wonderful sharing just now. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Stay safe and see you again. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.